Today, I want to talk about another TikTok creator named Jeffery Marsh. He is another trans slash non binary creator who does the same patronizing voice where he thinks that he's better than you because he figured out that he can wear makeup and a dress and change his pronouns and get away with anything. Specifically, he caught my eye because someone mentioned him in the comments, but also because of the first two TikToks that came up, which were like for kids only. And that just really, my little sense, I don't know, if my spidey sense said ding, 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 because as I've said before, I work with kids. I love working with kids. I've worked with kids both in a nanny sense and at a rape shelter. So trust me when I say, like, this is something that I genuinely care about. And I don't like the idea of letting random internet men tell your children how the world works, especially because they're often doing so wrong. If you tell a 5-year-old, yeah, you can change from a boy to a girl, they're going to believe you because they're 5 and they still believe in Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy. And that ends up leading in turn to those cases where you have children who are probably just effeminate gay boys being trans because their parents prefer to have a straight girl than a gay boy, or because they liked having the attention, more or less. So, anyhow, let's get to it and see what this dude's about.
I want to talk to the kids. Parents watch the video and then hand the phone over to the young kids.
I dislike how he specified the young kids, not the kids that are old enough to potentially think on their own and go, no, I don't like that, or I think that's weird, or that makes no sense, but the young kids. Parents, go ahead and watch, and because you are also brainwashed into believing that if we just say phrases long enough and loud enough that they're true, hand them over to your child. Chop chop.
Hi there. I get asked a lot, are you a boy or a girl? And
I don't believe that. I mean, you have stubble in every single video, and we do have recognition patterns to tell if someone is a boy or a girl. I really don't think anyone is asking that, and if they are a little confused, it's probably a child who doesn't know better because children associate with groups, right? Children think mommy wears lipstick, mommy wears earrings, girl, that goes with girl thing, and daddy does not. Daddy has underwear with holes in it and boxers or whatever. That's boy. So I don't think that ever happens. I really don't.
I love that question. And so I wanted to just tell you, sometimes human beings are more than boy or girl.
I swear to God, that patronizing tone. You know, sometimes there's more than two genders because some people think they're special, and that somehow, because they have an inner voice and thoughts, that makes them different than the other boys and girlies. Oh my God, shut up. I don't even really need to go into it because we all know there's only two sexes. There's only two gametes, sperm and ova, and that's it. That's it. There's nothing else. There's no spectrum. There's no broad variety. I've seen people claim some stupid shit like, oh, there's 26 different genders because we have 26 chromosomes. Bestie, none of you understand how science works, and I don't even know if you guys can read, to be honest, with some of the stuff that comes out of your mouths.
Sometimes we're something else. Sometimes we're both. Sometimes we kind of float in between, and sometimes we're a boy, sometimes we're a girl. Because human beings are creatures, and we're wild and exciting.
I honestly want to know, like, how does he define boy or girl? Because the minute that you think about it a little too hard, it is completely obvious. And I know that some people just live in a state of denial because it's easier to go along with the flow than to think on your own and to be potentially the minority in a group. But what defines a boy and a girl besides the simple matter of their sex? Because boys can like makeup and dresses and other boys. Like, there's nothing keeping boys from doing those things. And the funny thing is, with liberal feminism and the Jindy movement at large, they're perfect. Like, they celebrate that. Like, that One Direction dude. I'm sorry, I never had a boy band phase. The one that always dresses in like the worst gender bend stuff. People always say like the gender norms are beating his ass. There's him. There's plenty of dudes wearing dresses where they're just like, yeah, Freddie Mercury and all the other rock stars who did that. I'm sorry. I don't watch those. They're perfectly fine. They're celebrated. Those are still men. They just happen to like feminine things, whatever. It feels like it's mostly just girls who get like the worst of it, where it's like if you don't want to be a pornified star, like a pornified caricature, then you're not a girl, and there you go. Whereas boys can still kind of have that flexibility to, you can be a boy, or you can be non-binary, or you can be a girl, or you can be whatever. I feel like there's more flexibility to where like a boy can like dresses and makeup and whatever, and they're still allowed to define themselves however they want to under lib fem rules, if that makes sense.
But I want to ask you a favor. If you see a kid like me or an adult like me, would you be extra nice to them? Would you do me a favor and be very, very kind? Yeah, like anybody, we can feel lonely. And so if you're kind to us, it would be really, really important.
Something about those like soft male voices just sounds like nails on a chalkboard to me. And just the way they talk so slow and patronizing to make sure you really get it that they're better than you, and that because they're better than you should listen to him. Regardless, I'm not saying not to be nice to people, but the whole people who are gender non-conforming and think that they're the other sex because they think they're special, treat them extra special. Like they already think of themselves as special, but now it's like, make sure you kids, make sure that when you see a man in a beard wearing a dress, you treat him with extra super special niceness. It's just, how much attention do you need? How much do you really need? Like, are you gonna die? Are you like Tinkerbell, where if you don't get enough people believing in you, you just die? Because if that's the case, I mean, die then.
In fact, it's great to be like me and to be happy. It's okay to like dresses, to like sparkly things, to be a little, it's okay to be a little different than what people want you to be, than what people expect you to be. And I'm old. And I grew up without any examples of people like me. And so I really, really wanted to tell you, it's possible to be like me and then grow up and be happy.
The number of people who transition and feel worse is way higher than they want you to believe. So no, I don't think that it's possible for people to grow up and be happy like you, because I don't know that you are happy. I don't know that people like you are happy, because I'm not trans. The closest I ever got was like identifying as gender fluid in high school, and that left pretty quick once I realized I could just wear button down shirts and it didn't matter if my parents didn't like it. But it's just, I know that a lot of people who were trans and unidentified, they detransitioned, whatever, they felt like it was a spiral. They couldn't, like, every time they reached a milestone, it wasn't enough. They had to just keep going further because it wasn't working, and they needed to get deep enough for it to work. And then it just never did. And then, of course, if you do transition all the way, there are people who really are still dissatisfied because more or less the medical field is using trans people as experiments because they don't know what the hell they're doing. Take a look at, for example, the puberty blockers. I mean, they're getting banned in a few countries now because it's been a couple years and we now realize we don't know what the hell they're doing. And it's just, I think it's very dangerous to be like, you can be like me. Do you mean an effeminate gay man? Because yeah, kids can grow up and be happy and be gay. Or at least they used to be able to for a brief period between 2015 and maybe like 2020. But to be able to grow up and to be a trans, non-binary, who, like, maybe they'll be happy like that. But I sincerely doubt it, because everyone I've ever met who has a gender and, drinks the Kool-Aid, they just seem unhappy with life in general. They just seem unhappy because everything is a fight for validation. It's a fight to be recognized. And they don't realize that fighting to get people to give up on basically just how the world works to make you feel better, it's losing. It's not a battle that's going to work. Homosexuality happens in all kinds of animal species, all across the animal kingdom. This gender stuff only happens in humans. And it relies on you lying to yourself and pretending that you don't have gender recognition. It relies on you just being nice enough and being bullied enough into compliance to make other people live in their little fantasy world. And I'm sorry, but that's not a great way to live.
It's possible to be like me and grow up and be surrounded by wonderful friends, to be really, really fulfilled in your life, to have a good, long, happy life, and to, yeah, be joyful.
I will say that it's interesting that the comments in his videos tend to be a lot less overtly supportive than they were for the girlhood videos for Dylan. Like in a lot of these videos, the comment sections are, "Oh my God, you're so great! Thank you! You're so inspiring." And in this one, it just so far I've seen just several, "Leave the kids alone. I'm not letting my kids talk to you, dude. Shut up, go away." And that's just nice to see that not every place is an echo chamber of support and validation. Like there are some places where people hopefully are coming from a place of concern. Like, I would appreciate more of that where people are like, yeah, that's concerning, instead of just blindly going along with things.
I often get told, you look like a man.
And he says this while wearing a deeply cut shirt showing off his hairy chest while having every video with stubble on his face. And then goes, "How dare someone tell me I look like a man?" Isn't that the audacity to look at me and have gender recognition patterns and notice my male hairline and my male facial hair and my male jaw structure and my male body and be like, "Oh my God, I can recognize what you look like and what you are. How dare you? How dare you have eyes?"
Okay, I'm going to get in so much trouble, but I like trouble. The earth looks flat. What do you want me to do? What would you like me to do? The earth looks flat. It is not. I look like a man. I'm not one. What?
The difference here is that we know that the earth is round because we have several measures and ways of proving that. You can, for example, walk north a mile, walk west a mile, walk south a mile, walk east a mile. If we were flat, you'd be in the same place as you started, but because we have curvature of the earth, you'll end up somewhere else. There's a myriad of tests to prove that the earth is round. And we have the same method for proving if someone is a boy or a girl. Now, most commonly, most easily, when a baby is born, we look at their genitals and go, "Oh, boy, girl." And then we socialize and raise them accordingly. Not to say that those socialization patterns are necessarily correct, but that's how it works. And then as they grow up, they go through puberty in two divergent paths. If you're a woman, you go through one version, which makes you grow hips and you get a certain amount of body fat and you get leptin and you start your period and you grow breast and you have the ability, not the purpose, but you have the ability to have kids. And boys, they get testosterone and they get hairy and sweaty and larger and they have lean muscle mass. And we can recognize what each sex looks like because evolutionarily wise, you needed that. Like, it's all good and dandy to have gay sex, but you can't reproduce unless you're doing it with the other person who has the correct materials to make a baby. So we have this ability. And yet, you're trying to conflate the two like it's just impossible. Like you just have to trust in the Lord's word that the earth is round. And you have to just trust in your word that you aren't a man, despite looking like one. No. You're asking people to literally not use their brains. You're asking people just to take it on faith, like this is church, and the pastor is telling them to believe in the miracle they're about to perform. I'm sorry, we're not that stupid. I know how this works. I know what you are. I know. You can't pretend it away.
This is the part where we hold a boundary. It will seem unkind, but it's very kind. When are you going to grow up?
When are you? I stopped playing pretend when I was 12. You're an adult-ass man asking the world to pretend that you're not a man because you don't want to be one. I'm sorry, which one of us is more immature here? Really? The one who's playing dress up and pretend every day, and not only that, but throwing tantrums when the rest of the world won't play along? Or the adults who just say, "Hey, you can be a man and wear makeup and dresses. We don't mind. Just stop trying to invade spaces that aren't yours." Which one is really more immature?
When are you going to trust the experience and the human dignity of people like me? I look like a man. To you.
To everyone, actually. And you sound like one too. I know you don't want to hear that, but that's the truth.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. When are you gonna join us?
I'm good. I do not want to join your cult, actually. I'm good. I heard that if you told Scientologists no 3 times in a row, they'd leave you alone. I don't know if that works here, but no, I don't want to join your cult, and I never will.
This isn't actually a thing. So this is a terf, and it gives me a chance to talk about bullies in general. This person is either too unintelligent to know that this doesn't actually happen.
Oh, I just love it when they say that. It doesn't actually happen. We don't actually have an issue with predators in the community. It may not be in bathrooms. It could be somewhere else. It can be, let's see, in schools. It can be in spas. Any place that was typically single sex separated, in sports, whatever. It happens. As much as you try to deny that it does, it happens all the time. And the fact is, every time that it does happen, you guys cry, well, it's an outlier. That's not a real trans person. That's just a predator. How can you tell the difference? That's the argument that we're making. We're not saying, oh, we'll go F all them trans people. They can go get assaulted in the men's bathroom. What we're saying is, if you want a space of your own, go campaign for it. Go get a third bathroom for you to use specifically. Don't try to barge in our spaces, and don't try to pretend that there aren't people who are going to use that privilege, that ability to go hurt women, because that's what happens. You lie, say it doesn't happen, and it does, and then you cover it up every single time.
Or is purposefully lying so that they can hook into my childhood trauma and watch a marginalized person suffer.
Just how self-centered of you to assume that, like, yes, there are women on the internet who just for fun want to target you specifically and make you relive your childhood trauma by bringing up the fact that women are facing victimization in spaces that were meant to be single sex. We are having our jails, we are having spas, bathrooms, sports, everything is being invaded. And I mean invaded, I mean it, because you can try to make it out like it's an inclusion thing. And maybe for some people it is. But there are a hell of a lot of people who are willing to take advantage of rules and regulations that people like you push because you want to feel validated in order for their own personal gain or specifically to hurt women. We don't care about you. We don't care about you. We care about what you are doing and how that affects women. I don't care about you. I care about other girls and other women like me. I want to protect them. I want to help them. I want to call out the behaviors that you are perpetuating that is making it harder for women. It's not about you. I don't give a shit about you or your trauma or your background or how it hurts your feelings to call out the fact that non-binary is a bullshit identity or that you are a man, whether or not you want to admit to it or not.
In other words, this is a morally bankrupt person. All terfs and all bullies are a combination of unintelligent or unwilling to learn and moral failures as human beings.
The minute that you actually say what the word TERF means, you realize how ridiculous this sounds. Trans exclusionary radical feminists. Yes, because feminism is for women, and it is only trans exclusionary of trans identified males. You wouldn't be doing this with, like, the Black Lives Matter movement. That's what you're doing here. You can admit that all lives mattering, like Black Lives Matter, is bad because it diverts attention from the problem at hand, but you do the same thing to feminism all the time. Feminism is for everyone. It's liberating everyone. No, it's not. It's not for everyone. It is for women. Stop trying to all lives matter feminism. Secondly, you can call your enemies whatever the hell you want. It doesn't change the fact that you don't even know half of what we actually talk about or care about. It doesn't change the fact that you're ignorant. You don't know anything about your enemies, while pretty much everyone who's a radical feminist either has been a feminist their whole damn lives or directly came from your movement because we were in it.
J.K. Rowling loves misogyny. Loves it. She loves it. Any woman who says, I am a feminist, I am ridding the world of misogyny, and then spends all day tweeting mean things at trans people.
So I guess we're not talking about the fact that J.K. Rowling has spent millions of dollars on charity, that the reason why she's not a billionaire right now is because she spends so much money on charity. We're not going to talk about all the trans people online who literally sent porn, child porn, to her through Twitter. We're not going to talk about the fact that she's not picking fights, she's just finishing them. We're not going to talk about the fact that feminism doesn't include trans people, and so people who try to encroach on those spaces, that is a part of feminism. Ensuring that we have single-sex spaces, that we have protections, and that we are not sliding backwards like you guys are so intent on us doing. But, go on, make J.K. Rowling out to be your boogeyman, because it's so much easier to point at someone whose tweets and whose writings you've probably never even read than it is to actually critically think about what your opponents are saying, and maybe critically think about what you're doing in your own life. I know thinking is kind of hard, so I don't expect it of you.
Or gets on trans people's profiles and just says the most horrible, cruel things. That's not how you end misogyny.
Yeah, you end misogyny by pointing out misogynistic behaviors which the trans movement is built on. Like, no shit, Sherlock. Real feminism is not made for you, therefore you don't like it because it doesn't center around you and evidently need the whole world to revolve around you to be happy.
So we can all see from your actions that you don't actually want misogyny to go away. J.K. Rowling uses the fact that misogyny is real, it does exist, to be the constant victim.
My dude is just out here saying words like they mean something. Like, what is your point here? What is your point? You're being so nonspecific. What about her statements do you actually object to? Do you even know what her statements were? Do you even know anything about the woman besides the fact that you all labeled her terf, and so now she's bad person, now she's devil, now you can send her rape threats without having any feelings of potentially doing wrong? Like, do you even know what the hell you're talking about?
And in her warped, awful morality, she thinks being a victim entitles her to victimize anyone that she wants to.
If that's the logic you're using, and it's some weird logic, you're saying that she's been victimized, so you admit that she has faced something, and that therefore she wants to turn it out on the world, and that's why she's mean, that's why she doesn't like trans people, because she wants to use misogyny as a shield to be mean to trans people for reasons. What reasons? Like, if you're going to build up a straw man, if you're going to build up this idea of this boogeyman out there who just wants to just genocide all the trans people, why? Think about it. Why? What reason do you think she possibly has for disapproving of some of the things about trans people? Like, you can't just go out there and be like, yes, she's evil for the sake of being evil. At least have a actual goddamn reason as to why you think she doesn't like you. Because when you actually go into it, she doesn't hate you. She doesn't. No actual terf or radical feminist, as we actually are, hates trans people. We might hate some of the things that you do. We might hate some of the behaviors and some of the things that you have brought into the world. We don't hate you as an individual. What we hate is the fact that it is impossible for a woman to be an actual lesbian now without being criticized and called transphobic. We hate the fact that in prisons they are putting literal sex offenders in there with women, majority of which who have been abused or assaulted in their lives and who are then raping and impregnating them. We hate the fact that girls can no longer compete in sports fairly because men will say, I am a woman, and then be allowed to play, and because we have different bodies and different strengths, they win and take all of those roles. Our issue is inequality that the trans movement brings forward. Do you know what your problem with J.K. Rowling is, besides the fact that you just think she's a bad person because someone else told you that?
Groomers, they accuse us of all these awful things, and now in Ohio they want to pass a law that any young lady or school kid, girl, that wants to play sports could at any time be subject to a genital inspection.
Okay, so the specific law he's talking about is a bill that is not passed yet, it's aiming to ban males from participating in women's sports. And so more or less what it says is that if a participant's sex is disputed, then they have to go to the doctor and have the doctor sign off on something saying what their true sex is. And here's the thing. People have misread that to mean they require genital inspections, and it'll be done by school officials, and that's not what it says. It says that you have to go to the doctor, and the doctor will have to prove that you are a boy or a girl. Like, first off, we can generally tell. It's on your school paperwork. But if for some reason, let's say, I don't know, in Ohio, you somehow manage to transition early and you change all your labels on your birth certificates and whatnot, you go to the doctor and the doctor will have to say, huh, boy or girl. It's not just any random person doing a genital inspection. It's probably not going to be a genital inspection because just how it works. There's a trail of paperwork proving what sex you are because of how we get a birth certificate when we are born. And that information, that sex of yours, is on every single document in the hospital or doctor's office or whatever. So it's just a stupid argument because I don't think any of them actually read the law they proposed, which also, by the way, states that they should have mixed sports as well. It actually says, yes, if possible, there should be co-ed sports to allow for people who are trans and who want to play in sports like that to have a chance. So try again and maybe actually read the laws you're criticizing next time.
From the government to prove that she's not trans and can therefore play sports. What an incredible violation of privacy. What an immoral thing to do. It's misogyny.
It's not misogyny to make sure that sports are fair. See, I used to play lacrosse in high school. Not very long. I did not do well with team sports, but I did enjoy the actual act of it, right? And with lacrosse, girls lacrosse and boys lacrosse was paid differently. Boys lacrosse required a lot more gear, and they were allowed to physically touch each other. Like, they could run into each other and push and shove and all that stuff. We weren't allowed to. We weren't allowed to hit each other or shove or be violent. There were certain rules and regulations that we had to face that boys didn't. And partially it was because of just, we could hurt each other, you know? And if you include a boy in a girl's sport, he can hurt her. You have that, like, it's happened several times in the past. Within was it a kickboxing match? The National Rugby Association came to the same conclusion that it would be unsafe for their athletes to allow trans-identified males to play. And pretending that there is no danger, that it's the same, it's totally fair. That's going to get people hurt. It's going to get girls hurt. And it's not misogyny to try to prevent that from happening.
It's awful. It makes me so angry. And I will tell you this, they always say we need to protect the women and children, and they say that right before they become the perpetrators.
Again, everyone who tries to criticize like the supposedly transphobic laws that come out, I don't think they actually read through the laws. They just hear like the catchy phrase they put in the news on those liberal leftist sites and go, oh, it's so horrible, it's so scary. And they don't even bother realizing what they are arguing for or against or whatever. Because like if you actually read through these laws, it just says like have things separate. And if someone has an unclear gender for whatever reason, they can just go to the doctor and have something signed off saying that they are a boy or a girl. It's that easy. It's not abuse to go to the doctor and have the doctor look at your form and say, oh, boy, or a girl, or draw some blood work, or maybe even say they did do a damn genital inspection, which I sincerely doubt a doctor would have to do because they're a medical professional and they know what boys and girls look like. That's a doctor. It's a doctor. You're not going to school and having Miss Grady from your school, from your fucking language arts class, pull down your pants in front of the whole class to say, now you know you're a boy, now you can play basketball. That's not how it's going to go. It's just completely disingenuous to argue that when I know that you can read. Or at least I swear to God, I hope you do because you're old as hell. You know that's not what these laws are saying. You just like the sensationalism of it and you just like feeling like a victim because being a victim is fun. Anyhow, this, dear viewers, is where we part. I thank you to the person who pointed out this man because I love when my blood pressure gets high and I can just yell into the microphone. And I do feel like sometimes I'm kind of just repeating the same things because we all kind of know the same things. But that's life, I suppose. It's the same arguments, different people. Same thing every single time. If you have any other suggestions, anyone else you want me to look into, leave it down in the comments below. I think our next TikTok and or YouTube commentary thing like this might be a live stream, just because I think it'll be fun to be able to talk to you guys about it live. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below if you have any comments, questions, concerns, suggestions, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.